Hey guys, how are you doing? Thanks for coming to my channel. I really appreciate it. I hope you're doing well and having a great, wonderful day. So, I'm sorry. So today we're gonna be talking about human decency because during New Year holidays I saw an asshole at a restaurant. So a week ago I went to a steakhouse and there was a customer yelling at a waitress over this small issue. I couldn't help but overhear it. So apparently this guy received what he didn't order. He was served a steak instead of a hamburger steak or something. So he was making a scene and it was brutal. He was lashing out at this waitress who made a mistake and she kept saying, sorry, sorry, sir, how can I make it to you, you know? And eventually the manager stepped in and he diffused the situation by offering him a free lunch and coupons in the future for the future visits. And the show was over, but it was terrible. It broke my heart, you know? And moments like this make me think about, deep, profound things like why do some people lack integrity, compassion, and empathy, you know? Maybe that guy has never been on the receiving end of mistreatment. Maybe that guy has never been humbled in life. Maybe that guy doesn't know what it feels like to be powerless, you know? Because if you have empathy or compassion, you wouldn't do that, right? You would handle the situation diplomatically, like quietly, right? Just receive the coupons and just wait for another 10 minutes or so and get what you ordered, right? That's how how you should handle the situation. But he went a different route, right? And caused the scene. It was uncalled for. And this kind of shit stays with you, right? I'm pretty sure the waitress thought about it a lot that night. Maybe she couldn't sleep that night, you know? Yeah, it plays over and over again in your head until you are over it completely, right? So that's how you process the kind of traumatic, incident. And I really believe people need to go through some kind of hardship to develop, emotional intelligence, like empathy, self-awareness, and compassion, stuff like that, right? And as much as hardships suck while you are going through them, they make you a better person. If you reach adulthood without struggling at all, you end up an entitled asshole who can't put yourself in other people's shoes, right? And it doesn't matter how good you present yourself at work. If you mistreat customer service employees, right? It goes to show who you are at the core, That's why girls intuitively see how men treat waiters and waitresses at a restaurant, right? It's a good measurement of people's character, right? Because we all know people can change their behavior depending on who they talk to and where they are, right? And in dating, relationships, people tend to try to be as nice as they can be, right, at the first stage of a relationship, right? But further along they reveal their true colors and they end up like an asshole, right? That and then relationships fall apart. That's the natural progression of a relationship, right? So in order to prevent it from happening to you, you should see how they treat customer service workers. So no matter how good you present yourself at work, it doesn't matter if you mistreat these little people. I experienced it the firsthand in my previous job. So in 2019 I went to India on the business trip for a couple weeks. And there I was with my supervisor the whole time. We would eat together. We would commute in the same car. We would work side by side. We were together the whole time. But, during our stay, rather, we, had a private driver who wasn't originally a driver. He was working in the HR department for this company we were working with on this project, but he was assigned to us as a driver, as a temporary driver to help us move around, And he was great. He was very professional, dedicated, and nice. He was a good guy. I liked him. And on one weekend, we asked him to drive to this touristy spot, which is like 3 hours away. So it was a 6 hour drive in total round trip. So it was a taxing job for a temporary driver, but he agreed to it and he drove us to that place and he helped us a lot during our trip. He helped us communicate with the locals. He gave us, directions. He, told us where to go, stuff like that. He was very nice and helpful. But my supervisor wasn't, feeling the same thing. He was kind of taking for granted. Like he was very demanding. He was like, go there, stop by this place, translate for us. He was very demanding and like assholish, right? So I sensed, like towards the end of the trip, I sensed the driver becoming frustrated and annoyed by how he treated him. So he was becoming out of sorts. And my supervisor noticed it too, and kind of becoming, he was getting angry at him, and he started bitching about him in Japanese because the driver couldn't understand Japanese, right? So he was talking shit about him in Japanese the whole time. So it ruined my mood and the whole trip, It was disgusting to listen to, his him bad mouthing him. I was like, how could you forget what he has done to us today, Like, where's the human decency? I was like flabbergasted because, this guy was likable and respected, at the office, but he turned out to be an asshole who didn't have like empathy, right? And I wondered if he worked part-time job or worked in the trenches. This is a cliche, but you don't realize how great your mother is until you live alone, right? Like living alone makes you wonder how she managed to like raise you while cooking, doing the chores, and dealing with 100 other issues at the same time, right? It makes you realize how great, incredible your mother is, right? The same thing, until you wait tables, until you work in customer service industry, you don't realize how shitty it is to deal with customers, right? It sucks, and I know how it feels. And like, how you like if you go through a difficult time, you kind of become aware of the pain of others and start considering the context. For example, when people without empathy see someone acting out, someone who is out of sorts, they think he's an asshole, right? Just taking it at face value. While people with empathy or compassion see the same guy acting out, they would assume they'll try to understand where he's coming from, right? Maybe, he had a bad day. He's going through something that day, so they would cut him some slack, I guess. So that's the difference between people with empathy and people without empathy, right? So pain teaches empathy, loss teaches gratitude, and struggle teaches resilience. You need to go through hardship to develop, all these qualities like integrity, human decency, empathy, compassion. Like rich people stereotypically, tend to be assholes, right? And it's because of their environment, their upbringing, right? They grew up without having to like struggle because they grew up surrounded with maids and butlers, so they never had to do chores. They never had to split a bag of chips with their siblings. They never had to walk to school because they had a driver, right? So they, as a result, became like assholes who lack, human decency, integrity, emotional intelligence, I guess. Like smooth sailing doesn't lead to growth. You should be going a bumpy road to be a better, person, I think. And some parents say, I don't want my kids to struggle like I did, but I'm the opposite. I want my kids to like struggle, like suffer a little, in order to be better like people, right? I'm not gonna abuse them or anything, right? But I want them to get into challenging situations and feel a sense of pain, loss, frustration, defeat, inadequacy to, build resilience, integrity, compassion, self-awareness, and all these emotional intelligence related qualities, right? Struggle isn't punishment, it's preparation. No struggle, no growth. That's what I think. And you should struggle growing up. I think that's good for you. It prepares you for adulthood. looking back on my past, my most brutal, painful, frustrating, embarrassing experiences made me a better person, like helped me build character and shaped who I am today. Namely working construction from 15, like as a teenager. I worked construction from 15 to 20. Manual labor was tough, like carrying things from point A to point B, like paving the road, carrying pieces of scaffolding, going upstairs, downstairs, back and forth. Manual labor itself was tough. But what was tougher for me was to see like high school students pass by, laughing, chatting, looking happy while I was working on the curve, like paving the road, right? It made me want to learn things. Before that experience, I didn't give two shit about education, but it made me, more curious and education driven. Is that a word? I don't know, but it made me want to learn things to get out this job. And without that experience, I wouldn't be speaking English. I wouldn't be doing this. So in retrospect, it was a great experience. It made me who I am today. This is about me, but there's something about people who hit rock bottom and bounce back. There's something about them that makes them like magnetic, attractive, and charismatic. There's depth to their personality, right? There's like something about their conviction, like something about their eyes. It's so they're radiating this aura, which is, inexplicable. There's something about them, and money can't buy that. So I think you need to go through, difficult times to develop this quality. It's really important. It makes you stronger. Suffering exposes you, like forces you to confront your own weaknesses and flaws, right? And it makes you realize you're not as good as you think you are. You're not as smart as you think you are, right? And you have to confront your issues, and you kind of change your mind. You expand your like perspective and become more empathetic and self-aware, I think. So yeah, I'm rambling at this point. I'm sorry. There's no through line this video, so I'm just saying shit. But yeah, the bottom line is you need to treat customer service employees right. You shouldn't mistreat them. All right, you need to be a better man. That's it. If it resonates with you, leave comments. All right, see ya.